Okay guys, so let's move on from the boot process. Let's talk about file management, okay? Organizing your files. All other folders and files are organized within the root directory, okay? There are areas in the root directory that hold special OS files. So if you've ever messed around with the command prompt on your machine, you probably don't want to ever mess around too much in the root directory because you could delete essential files and pretty much cripple your machine, okay? But anyway, yeah, the programs within these files help run the computer and generally should not be accessed, okay? A file is a collection of program instructions or data that is stored and treated as a single unit. Files can be stored on a hard drive, a flash drive, online, or on any other permanent storage medium. A folder is a collection of files. Okay. A library gathers categories of files and displays them as if they were all saved in one folder. Okay. So that should be, a little refresher there for you. Okay. Have you ever received a file maybe by email and you couldn't open it? Okay. Most likely that was because your computer didn't have the program that was needed to open up that file. Okay, so sometimes similar programs that you already have installed can be used to open the file, so it's helpful to know what the file extension is. Okay, there's different websites like filext.com, and that can help you identify the source program, or you can just type it in, Google it, and get your answer that way. There's so many different file extensions. It's crazy. Okay, so here's some common file name extensions. We have .docx. That will tell you, like right off the bat, that that's a Word document. Okay. The application you can use to open it would be Microsoft Word 2007 and later. Okay. By later, they mean obviously we're at Microsoft 2016, so any of the later versions would work. You could also open it like in a notepad and text document type thing. It might come out a little funky, but at least you'll be able to read it. Okay. .xlsx. .xl. That should give you a hint right there. That's an Excel program. Okay. If you see something like this, .accdb, that means database. .pptx is a PowerPoint presentation. .pdf, that stands for portable document format. .rtf is rich text format. Okay. .txt, that's a text file. .html, that's a web page file. .jpeg, we know that one, right? From, well, we hear it all the time, okay? That's a picture, an image. And .zip is a compressed file. So it's good for you to know these extensions if you don't already. You don't have to memorize them, just familiarize yourself a little if you're not sure of a couple of them. And you can look up other file extensions as well. Okay, so for review, each operating system has its own naming rules. Okay, beyond those rules, it's important to name your files so they are easily identifiable. File names can have as many as 255 characters. A file name such as bioresearchpaperdraft.docx makes it very clear what the file contains. So you want to be specific in the naming of your files. If you're not, you're going to have a heck of a time trying to find that file later. Every file has to be uniquely identified unless they're saved in different folders or locations. So files might be able to share the same name, like bioreport.docx and bioreport.xlsx, or the same extension, like bioreport.xlsx and budget.xlsx, but no two files stored on the same device and folder can share both the same file name and extension. Okay, so that's what we're talking about when we say all files have to be uniquely identified. When you save a file for the first time, you give that file a name, and then you designate where you want to save it. I always do save as, just so I know exactly where I'm putting whatever I happen to be saving. Just because if not, sometimes my computer will place it somewhere and then I never can find it again without doing a search. So to save myself that trouble, I place it exactly where I want it to go. Okay. For easy reference, the OS includes libraries where files are saved unless you specify otherwise, like I do. Okay. In Windows, the default libraries are documents for files, music for audio files, pictures for graphic files, and then videos for video files. So that's pretty self-explanatory there. You can actually determine the location of a file by its file path. Okay. This is important. The file path starts with the drive in which the file is located and includes all folders, subfolders, the file name, and the file extension, like this. All right, so if you're to see this right here, okay, this is called a file path. Now, these little brackets here, you don't see that when you're looking at this on your machine, but you are going to see this, okay? Right here is the drive. This is telling you what drive, whatever you're looking for, is stored on, okay? Just for your information, if you see a C, that's your C drive, that's your hard drive, okay? Like your internal hard drive, that's always a C drive. Other drives might be like an E drive if you have an external hard drive, like an F drive, so different things like that. But C is what you're most commonly going to see if you're pulling a file from your computer. Okay, so it's telling you, okay, it's located in your hard drive. The primary folder that it's located in is Documents. So you would go click onto your C drive, then you would look for the folder called Documents. You would double click on that. And then here we have a bunch of subfolders. Okay, so these follow this little slash right here. Okay. Once I open up the document folder, next I'm going to see this folder inside it. So His 182, we're guessing that's History 182. So we're going to double click on that. And inside of that, we're going to see another folder called Term Paper. Okay, we're going to double click on Term Paper. And it's going to open up yet another folder. Inside of Term Paper, we're going to see this folder called Illustrations. So we double click on Illustrations. And that's where we had placed our picture of Andrew Carnegie. Okay, obviously it's a JPEG. That's your file extension. It's telling you what type of file this is. This is an image. This is the file name, and it's always followed by the extension. Okay, so dot whatever is your file extension. I really like for you guys to know this stuff. So be able to label the different parts of a file path. Okay. What else do I need to tell you about this? Let's see. The backslash characters, these guys right here, used by Windows, are referred to as path separators. Okay. Instead of path separators, instead of these backslashes, your Mac OS actually uses a colon. Okay. And then if you're running Linux, instead of this backslash, you're going to have a forward slash. All right, so this is your file path. The drive is right here. The first folder you see is your primary folder. These subfolders are all nested within this primary folder. Okay, first this one, then this one, then this one. And then finally, you find your file that you were looking for inside your Illustrations folder. File name, A. Carnegie, file extension, .jpg. Okay, so how are we going to configure our desktop OS to make our system more secure, more efficient, and more personalized? If you're running Windows 10, you could swipe in like from the top right corner of your screen, and the settings are going to pop up. Or you can just search for settings. Either way works. The settings charm displays settings and help for the apps that you're currently using. Okay. PC settings enable you to change lots of common settings on your system, and configure user accounts, privacy settings, hint, hint, go in there and fix your privacy settings if you haven't already, and also your accessibility settings. Okay. If you want to open up your control panel, this is what it's going to look like basically. Okay. This gives you even more options to configure, monitor, or troubleshoot settings, hardware, and software. Okay. So you have all your different choices here. If you have a Mac, System Preferences, that's what it's called, okay? System Preferences. So there it is right there. This is the window that opens when you click on your System Preferences. And in macOS, you can see they're grouped into these nice, neat rows. Okay? You can configure hardware settings, user accounts, and customize the way your computer looks and responds. So, basically all the same stuff. Accessibility, date and time, users and groups. So here's where you're going to come in if you want to change your users on your computer. Displays, printers, etc. All the same stuff basically that you see on your control panel. So it may look different, but it does the same thing. Okay. So you can share your devices among users by creating separate user accounts. And what this does, it grants each user access to the computer system, but it also enables you to keep your files private and set restrictions on what others can do. So if it's your machine, this is a nice thing to do. Okay, there's 4 types of Windows accounts. There's a standard account. This is the type of account you should use for everyday computing. Okay, just your regular old standard account. If you have a younger brother or sister, or if your child, you might want to set them up with a child account. It's still a standard user account, except it has family safety turned on by default. Okay. An administrator account. This is one you only want to log in. You only want to log in as an administrator when you have some changes to make to your machine, when you're going to do some housekeeping, installing software, things like that. Okay. And you probably want to keep that account password to yourself. All right. And then there's a guest account for temporary access. So if someone's just going to use your computer for an hour or something and you don't plan on them ever using it again, go ahead and let them use a guest account. Okay, so for the next couple minutes I have left to record here, let's look at specialized operating systems. Okay. We've talked about embedded operating systems before, but just to review, an embedded operating system is a specialized operating system that runs things like GPS devices, cable boxes, ATMs, car communication and entertainment systems. Okay, could go on and on. Mobile devices like smartphones and tablets also run embedded mobile operating systems, which are a lot more full-featured because you're actually going to be interacting with your mobile device much more so than you are going to with your GPS. Like you're not going to pull out your GPS machine and start using Facebook or something, right? You're more likely to do that with mobile. So that's why it has a lot more features. Smartphone operating systems. Like I said, smartphones have embedded mobile operating systems, and each one has unique features. Okay, the Apple iOS is proprietary and found only on iPhones. The Windows Phone is based on the Windows Embedded CE, and that one is found on devices made actually by a lot of different companies, as is the Google Android, which has a Linux kernel. Okay, Android phones are like 90% of the market, so you find it on so many different devices. A lot of people prefer the Android operating system over iOS. Okay, all these OSs include touchscreen support, email, and web browsers.